Hey everyone, welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey everybody, welcome to the first podcast of the new year 2025. And we're launching a year where for 12 months, once a month, we're going to focus on 12 skills of elders, 12 real front burner items on the stovetop of leadership. And to kick the year off, what we're going to talk about are elder meetings and how to have an enjoyable and effective meeting. And to help us understand that, we are welcoming Kyle Hilgendorf, and Kyle is the lead elder at one of our partner churches, Venture Christian Church in Carmel, Indiana. Kyle, thanks for taking time off to be with us today. We are very appreciative.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And also, you can see on the screen, we have David Wright and Mike Killebrew, even though it says he's Gary Johnson. He is
logged in.
Yeah, it's all good.
We'll fix that.
Yeah. And we're grateful that wherever you are, either listening to or watching the recording of the podcast, we're grateful that you are intentionally wanting to lead in a more effective way. Now, Kyle, if you would you please describe to us, first of all, the context of your elder team? You know, how many elders do you have? How many times do you meet, or how often? That'll help us understand the context of ministry.
Sure. Yeah. So we have 9 elders at present. One of those is our lead pastor, and the other 8 are lay elders, members of the congregation, all men. We meet on a monthly basis, the second Wednesday of every month, with a couple of minor exceptions when spring break or fall break or something like that happens. And so we meet on a monthly basis. We will also meet on an as needed basis if there's a reason that dictates it. You know, as I'm sure many people that are watching or listening, for example, within COVID, we were meeting sometimes weekly on Zoom or a couple of times a week during some of the really stressful times, and trying to figure that out. And you know, if other stressful times or reasons to meet more frequently were to come up, we would do that. But otherwise, we stay on a monthly cadence.
Right.
Kyle,
I maybe also should say that those meetings last. So we start at 6:30. A lot of times we're trying to end by 9 or 9:30. So 2.5 to 3 hours. It's actually one of the areas that we're constantly trying to improve upon, is the length of the meetings.
how would you describe your elder meetings, Kyle?
I really enjoy them. I'd say the words that kind of jump into my mind would be, we're really unified. Unity is probably a hallmark of our team. And in fact, you've even heard me say elder team. We do that for a reason. I know some churches will call it an elder board, but like we really do see ourselves as a team, and I think we operate like a team. So you know, mutual respect. I think all of our meetings, we come in with pure intent. We are respectful. It's very rare for us to. I mean, I in the years that I've been an elder, I can't even really think of any what I would call fights or disrespect. There is differencing of opinions for sure, but the group of guys that we have, they're long standing, and we have a shared love of Christ and shared love of each other, and that really comes out in our meetings. So even when we have tough like business to work through, we're working through it with love and respect for each other, and that's just been the best part of being on that team.
Tremendous. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So, Kyle, as the lead elder, what are some of the things that you do to keep everyone on task? How do you stay out of the weeds?
Well, the first thing I should say is we have our struggles there. We are not perfect, so by no means am I the canonical or case example here, but we've been on a journey for a long time. I actually was kind of looking back at my notes in preparation for this, and I'm heading into my 9th year as the chairman of the elders. And I'd say the first couple of years, it was a struggle for me in that role, and trying to figure out how to keep these meetings well organized. But here's a couple of tips. that I think have helped us along the way and that we try to lean on to prevent this. So I believe it all starts with preparation, the pre-work, the ideation of what should be on the agenda, and probably the most important element of that pre-work is our executive team meeting. So there are 3 of us in that meeting. It's me as the chairman of the elders, Stan Killebrew as our lead pastor, and Daniel Shelton as our executive pastor. So the 3 of us get together 1 week before the elder meeting. It's actually the first Tuesday of the month, and our elder meeting is the second Wednesday. So we've got like 8 calendar days between that. Those executive meetings are all over the place because what we're doing is we're collecting a wide possibility of topics that have come in from maybe others on the elder team or the staff or an observation of the congregation or in our monthly rhythms. Like there's certain things we do every January, every March and so forth. So we kind of have some set topics and some random topics. And I would say in that executive team meeting, we spend 60 to 90 minutes really whittling down that agenda. And one of the most important elements that we use to help do that is the 5 Ps that Effective Elders introduced to us many years ago. So if you're not familiar with the 5 Ps, it's basically the 5 focus areas, the 5 callings and responsibilities of an elder. It's prayer, preaching, protection, policy, and pastoral care. And so we use that filter. Sometimes we're like, hey, should this be on the agenda? Yes or no? Well, does it fit into any of those responsibilities of an elder or an elder team meeting? And if it doesn't, then we really start to ask, tough questions as to whether or not it should be on that agenda. Now, I'll be fully transparent. We still let some things into the agenda that maybe don't classically fit into one of those 5. It may be that the staff is really leading and running with something, but they would just like some elder validation of that. We're thinking about operating this way. How do you respond? So they're looking for our wisdom on that. I think you could argue that that comes in with some protection, like, hey, let's make sure we're protecting ourselves from some type of big mistake, maybe even some pastoral care. Like we don't think maybe this pastor is leading or being cared for in the right way. But anyway, that we do use those filters pre-meeting, and we've dabbled with even structuring our agendas with those elements at times. And then even within a meeting, if it starts to feel like we're getting away from the topic or into the weeds, we'll use those filters to say, hey, look, it feels like we're heading down a tangent. Is it one of these elements? And anyone in the room has the liberty to kind of throw that flag and say, guys, I think we're off topic, or I think we're heading down a path we don't need to head down. And, I don't really consider myself like the authoritative leader of the meeting, because it really is a team concept. So once the meeting gets kicked off, yes, I will move us from agenda topic to agenda topic, but anyone in that room has full liberty to do things like that to try to keep us out of the weeds.
Good.
Wonderful.
Have you seen benefit of making sure you do stay out of the weeds? You're not micromanaging. You're not venturing into an area of responsibility that you've handed off to somebody?
Yeah, I mean that's been an interesting journey that I've been able to see just from my time on the elder team, because if we roll back 6-7 years ago, I hate to say this out loud, but our elder meetings were 6 or 7 hours on a Saturday morning.
On a Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not all the time, but there were definitely times, and that was our own fault. I think we had at times lack of trust with the staff to just go operate, or we had maybe individuals or personalities, or as a team, we wanted to control certain things. I think we also didn't have those filters, and so we said yes to kind of all topics. And there were definitely topics that we would be talking through that we definitely did not need to as an elder team. So, I mean, that's the immediate benefit, is just the focused elements, and the time that we spend together has been much more refined and laser sharpened that way. But but it also kind of reminds us what our calling is as elders. And we are all, successful men in the secular world in a variety of different positions. So we are used to getting into operations and weeds and so forth and so it's a really good reminder that's not what we're supposed to do here in our role as elders. So put your business world aside, and let's focus on it. And that's one thing that I think both Stan and Daniel do as our lead and executive pastor. Like sometimes they have to remind us, hey guys, we're not in a business meeting. Like the church operates differently here. So let's take that element out of it and let's focus on the pastoral care side or the shepherding side.
Kyle, to that point, when you have an agenda item and you've come to the time to make a decision, what's that process look like? Is there a vote? Are you dealing with unanimity? How do you proceed?
Yeah, we seek a unanimous or a consensus on all of our decisions. Now that does not always happen, but it's pretty common, or I should say it's very rare that we're not unanimous. So we will spend the amount of time in discussion needed to seek or to walk towards that unanimous decision. Now, based on our bylaws and what needs to be recorded in minutes, we do have to record votes and use, a loose form of parliamentary procedure to do that with a motion and a second and a vote and documenting that vote. And the vast majority of those, pass unanimously if you were to see our minutes. But there are times where that is not the case. And we have, like I said, 9, and it's not uncommon to have like an 8-1 or a 7-2, or sometimes somebody abstains because of their position in a ministry or their wife or spouse, is leading something in the preschool. And so when we make a decision about the preschool, someone might abstain. But for the most part, we really do seek a unanimous decision. And that, again, is a reflection on this team concept. We're really trying to focus on the team. And there even have been a few times when we've not been unanimous, where we've all said, okay, so we're not unanimous here, but what we are unanimous in that we will leave this room and all support that decision. And that has been 100%. I've never seen that.
That's good.
That's a great question, David. And let me just tell maybe a very brief story. So, for example, here at the Creek, David was one of our elders for 25 years. And this goes back to the early 2000s. It was 2004. And we were at the Creek as elders going through the thinking of, we want to become a mission driven church where we live on mission to seek and to save the lost, etc. And 1 out of 4 churches live in that culture and that thinking. And the opposite of that is being a member driven church where members are literally bringing great leadership influence to the elders and restricting the outward focus of a church. So we worked on that for more than a year. And as elders, it came time for us to make a decision. Are we going to move ahead with this or not? Now, in your governing documents, Kyle, you make mention, we are required to actually record a vote. That's not in our governing documents here. We, like you're still operating by consensus. And we operate by consensus. We'll go around the table. Mike's an elder now. Hey, Mike, what's your feel on this? What's your decision? So this was a very volatile decision on our part as elders in 2004. And I remember every time we tried to move the ball down the field and adopt mission-driven church leadership, there were a couple, 3 elders who were completely uneasy with that. And so what we did, David, you'll remember, we postponed. We said, all right, we're going to table this decision for another month, pray, fast, seek God's will. And we finally, after several months of not making a decision, we said, hey, we're going to move ahead. And it was in a spirit of Ephesians 5, verse 21, where Paul says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And those couple, 3 elders who really did not want to move in this direction, we had to ask them, will you submit, please, to the rest of us
Yeah.
out of reverence for Christ. Would you please? So that we can move forward in this realm. So that's what
Yeah.
we did. And it is in keeping with those 5 P's, our responsibility. The second thing I want to make mention of, when you say that you use those 5 responsibilities of elders to filter through your meeting, what you're doing, is this really our job or is this for somebody else? If people are watching or listening, we have a template. It's absolutely free. Just go to the website, e2elders.org, click on resources, and right there it'll say free stuff. And listed under free stuff is this template in Word format. We actually use this template at the Creek, and I'm the lead elder here, and elders will send me whatever they want on the template. It's my responsibility to then put it in the right one of those 5 buckets. And if it doesn't fit in one of those buckets, it's not for us to do. And we hand that off to gifted, talented, skilled, called men and women of God who want to serve their Savior Jesus with their spiritual gifting. So if you need a template, please go to our website and just download that. And it's in Word format, so you can put your church name and your church logo and graphics and make it personally yours, but it will help you do exactly what Kyle said. He's been a lead elder there for 9 years, and he's taken his band of brothers on a journey. This is now where they are when it comes to their meetings. So if you need a starting point, please get that template and use it. There's not a week that goes by here at at E2 that churches are downloading that template. It happens. It's literally in use now across the country.
Yeah, it's a great recommendation. It's a great resource.
What 1 or 2 practical suggestions would you have for anybody listening and or watching to maybe make a next step with regard to improving an elders meeting?
Well, Gary, I think you just said it best. Get structure, and what better structure is there than the 5 Ps, right? So whether it's an agenda template or a filter or a structure, make sure that you're not just walking into that elder meeting and saying, okay, so what do we talk about today or this month? So if you feel like that's you're listening to this and like, yeah, we just walk in and like spend a couple of hours. I mean, you've got to really put some deliberate and focused time on preparation and filtering and be laser focused on what you're going to talk to, because you've got to stay on task. It's really important time that you're spending together, and it needs to be used for the kingdom, not for all kinds of random things that could come in. Because if you don't structure an agenda, I've seen this in the business world as well. I mean, people will fill time, they will find topics, and I bet there's a high probability that those topics won't be on mission. So that'll drift.
2 words that were very powerful: task and time. If you go from 7-hour meetings on a Saturday morning to a 3-hour meeting on a Wednesday evening, that's effective use of time. That's time management. So do you do something there with regard to time management during a meeting to stay on?
Yeah. So on the agenda that we send out ahead of time, I time box everything on the agenda. It stresses me out every month that I do it. Like, how many minutes do we need for this topic? And I don't always get it right. But my intention there is to send a signal that says, we've got 5 minutes for this or 20 minutes for that. And I will say that as we move from topic to topic in the meeting. All right, we're going to head into a conversation about X. I've set aside 20 minutes for this because I believe it warrants some difficult discussion. And we go and then I'll say, hey, we're getting close to the end of this time. And just like you said a few minutes ago, Gary, we're not perfect on that. But if we need more time, we kind of go into one of probably 2 or 3 decision points. Do we want to continue to extend this? Is it this important that we need to eat into the rest of this meeting? Or do we need to pray and meditate on this and think through this and revisit this next month? And that happens quite a bit, right? Or are we just being inefficient and do we need to just make the decision? Because there are times in which it's like, wow, it sure sounds like we're already aligned here, but everyone's like saying what they want to say. And so sometimes we just need to say, speak now or forever hold, your peace, and let's make that decision and move forward.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. Well, David, Mike, you guys have any final questions for Kyle?
I don't.
I'd be
Go ahead,
curious. Yeah, if we could, what about in between meeting times? Like, how do you organize that? What does that look like? If something comes up and it needs some elder attention, what does that look like for you guys at Venture?
So we use electronic communication. If something comes up, we'll use email. We have a group distribution list, and if we need to get quick opinions on something, or I'd say our pastoral team, this would always come from our lead pastor as one of our elders. If there's needing to seek some quick, hey, is everyone okay if we go do this? It just want to get a quick validation. That will always be done via email. If there would be some type of crisis or emergency or semi-emergency, we on occasion have called like a Zoom call that night, or the next night. And we know that not everyone could potentially make it on such short notice, but like if it's that big of a deal, it's pretty amazing how the team shows up. They'll just do whatever they need to do to be there. And so that's what we would do. I'd say the other thing we're doing between meetings is continuously collecting potential elder topics. Something I've been working on a bit in the past few months is doing what I call a look ahead. So like we had our elder meeting this past Wednesday. At the end of that meeting Wednesday, I did a February look ahead. Here's the topics that we already have for next month, the things that we need to address. Here are some pre-read materials that we're going to get out that we need you to spend some time on. We do that. And at other times we've read books together on a very difficult topic. And so sometimes that will take a couple of months of reading a book and discussing a book and how does that influencing how we might act here or do something here.
Great. Super. Well, listen, thank you for taking time to be with us today. Your comments, you sharing your story from Venture is going to be of real practical help in developing leadership skill in elder environments in churches literally across the country. And we have many people who are subscribed to our podcast from outside of the United States. So you're a person of real coaching and influence today, Kyle. And for that, we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right. Well, gentlemen, we're going to call it a day. And if we can be of help to any of you who are connecting with us, be sure to email us, e2elders.org, and always lead well.